Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay. So I think it's been a good amount of time since an incident that I want to talk about for today's episode that I think it's really important to share. So there I was Friday evening, all my stuff packed up and getting ready for a weekend of first aid training for work. And I was on my way downtown, southeast part of DC to attend the training. And and then at some point to kind of get into it as I'm riding my bike and moving along, going through one of the parks there on the trails, moving from the street onto the crosswalk when I was just within a couple blocks of the location where I had to go, waiting for a car to pass on through as they were coming in the opposite direction, and there was the green light basically in my direction. So I was just waiting for this one car so I can cross over. So that one car passed as it was turning left, crossing me, but in front of me. I went after that car, and another car followed suit, coming in a little bit fast, picking up speed, and not looking like they're slowing down. And me trying to pedal forward as fast as I can, because at that point I knew a collision was about to happen. And so I got into a bike accident via car collision. And I remember when I got hit, it was like a T-bone type situation where I was riding. I was trying to make that transition. There was a lot of traffic, a lot of stuff going on. And this is the crazy thing about DC traffic at times, where it's very important to be careful when navigating out during rush hour because it gets crazy. And this reminded me of that. And I was just pedaling forward as fast as I could when the moment I realized before I got hit. And then I just got hit from like my rear part of the bicycle, the wheel. And ended up turning me, and then I ended up falling down on my side on the bicycle. And then I was down for a little bit, although it was funny because in the past, when I've had some accidents, I had this tendency of wanting to get up immediately. But when it comes to like accidents, one of the first things that's important is just like to be still and not try to move. Especially because if you're someone that's riding like I was, a lot of adrenaline was pumping. A lot of stuff was was going on. So it's just like I won't necessarily have that acute awareness of what's going on in my body at that moment post collision. And so I had like two good Samaritans who witnessed the whole situation kind of go down, and just be there by my side to help kind of block off traffic. And they had called the fire department, and of course they came with the whole ambulance, the whole nine, and then some police officers came. So I'm grateful that there were some good Samaritans there to be able to help me out in that moment when I was down. Um, and for me, I was just like experiencing a bit of shock when that happened, and um, there weren't a whole lot of. I mean, there was just this surreal feeling that just kind of came about. How quickly it just happened. Um, but then, like, I started. Once I started I got looked at. The fire department came and the police came, and then I was pretty much at that point just by myself there. I was on the phone. I was messaging my manager about the whole situation, and he was being very super helpful and very empathetic about my situation. And I had him on the line, and he was just there to support me. as all this was just like has happened, post collision and things like that. And after everything was said and done, I was just, I had, to even just kind of wrap up there of just like, at that point, once I had met with the officers and the firefighters, and they did their checks to make sure all vitals were good. Everything, for the most part, I would say like 90%, I was good. But the 10% was the mental part, which I'll talk about in a bit. And I even took it upon myself to go to urgent care. I called my pops to come pick me up and to take me to the urgent care that's nearest our home where we live. And they did their checkups and did evaluations and stuff. And based on that, they decided that no further X-rays or anything was necessary that would warrant any concern based on their assessment of me. And they had me do some exercises, and they also checked up on my body too as well. My primary my doctor, my urgent care doctor. And so and I remember going back home, just kind of feeling just a lot of stuff and emotions starting to come up. And and the motorist, the lady that just hit me, that just here's where I'm gonna kind of get into my whole processing of all of this. Because at that time I wasn't really concerned about the motorist who hit me at that time. I was more focused on like, okay, am I good? Is my bicycle good? And interestingly enough, my bicycle was good. I looked at it and I thought, damn, my bike's. I remember when I remember one of the thoughts that came up, which is crazy, but when I had fallen, I was on the ground at that time. I remember I was thinking, damn, my bike has been decommissioned. It's just out of service, no more rideable, etc., etc. It's bent. I hadn't had a good look at it, but I was still down processing. I'm like, oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot. Am I okay? And then I was worried, like, am I good? I remember one of the first thing I was doing was like wiggling, see if I can I feel my feet. Because I remember when I got hit in the collision, I felt and heard my spine crack. You know, it was like that kind of crack that I don't know if you ever had that feeling of someone kind of grabbing you from behind and picking you up to crack your back. It was a sensation similar to that. And so that was like one of my also immediate fears that came up, like, shoot, did I just sustain spinal injury? Especially in that kind of collision and being T-boned, that's just it's crazy. But speaking to you from the present moment, at least at the time of recording this podcast, that no, it wasn't the case. Thankfully everything was been it's been good. But it's interesting that the emotions that I had going on within me and the anger I had felt towards the individual. And this was like after things were starting to set in. I was feeling soreness, still feeling soreness in my right chest, uh, kind of like near my armpit and just that whole area, part of my arm and whatnot is just feeling just really sore. And, this is one of those things for me, this experience where I found myself thinking about the past, thinking about what could I have I done differently? What could I have done? I mean, I know I could have done some things differently, and and one of the things that really upset me, aside from the fact that, of course, is that tendency to get angry at the person, like in this situation, right? It was easy for me to get angry at that lady that hit me, because I was literally in front of her and she didn't see me. She kept on going, and then and she didn't, and she left the scene. This is almost like a hit and run type of thing. She stepped out of her car, but then went back inside and didn't even do anything else and left on. Uh, and I was just too jaded to even try to even think about like getting her license plate number and all that stuff or all the important facts that I would have needed to do any follow up. I was just so, like I said, that's a real feeling. And so the other aspect of it as well too that added to my frustration was that I knew when when I was going from the sidewalk to the crosswalk to get on the other side of the street, that first car was passing through, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna pass through this car that had made that left turn that was crossing me, but they were, Mind you, like this is like opposite, that traffic coming the opposite direction, making a left turn into the the street that I'm trying to pass. If that gives you a nice visual, and when that car was going and I was starting proceeding to go, I had in that instant I had an intuitive hit that something was up. But in my haste, I kept on going. And then when I saw in my peripherals the motorist was not even stopping after I was trying to cross, and at that moment, bam, it happened. So I'm kind of breaking down for you, kind of trying to paint you a picture of like the order of operations here, what has been happening. And I had that intuitive hit, but I didn't listen to it. And that was part of the frustration for myself from that experience. Like, why didn't I listen? Why didn't I stop and wait and let the cars move through before proceeding? And, I don't know, think back your experiences, but, for yourself, maybe not to this extreme, of course, but where it's just like, for me, it was easy to get caught up in the past. I should have done this. I could have done this. And there was like, and I spent some chunk of the day into the weekend where I was living in the past. I was reliving the same situation again and again, hoping that it could have, wishing that it would have played out differently. And that's the thing about the past, is that if I'm not using it in balance, and in other words, I'm living in the past rather than looking at the past to see, okay, the wisdom. What's the wisdom I need to draw from this and move forward with? That would be the balanced way. But otherwise, it's a spiral effect that I'm just gonna go down. It's like getting caught in a quicksand. And the more I struggle, the more and more, which comes in the form of, for me, is like overthinking it, wishing something was different, wish it could have been different, wishing all that thinking is like that physical struggle in the quicksand that only brings me down, that sinks me deeper into the quicksand, into the confusion, to now begin to bring it into perspective. And there's definitely that feeling of being, one of the vibrations that can really get me caught is feeling like I've been wronged, you know, and that's dangerous because in that vibration for myself, I can get into this thinking pattern of like the world owes me something or life does owes me something. And that's not true. Life doesn't owe us anything, but I do believe life is there for us. That doesn't mean it owes us anything. That's a very that's a terrible bad sense of entitlement. That's not healthy. And it's not the best way to look at life, in my opinion, in my experience. So I spent the weekend just trying to recover, and it obviously took some break from going to the gym. Really bummed that I couldn't continue doing my gym workouts that I've been enjoying a lot lately. And just even though I'm good for the most part, good range of motion, all the things, I want to do the smart thing and honor my physical body because one of the things I try to be aware of, like, are there any complications that could come about from this? And that was part of the worry as well too, overthinking stuff and feeling sensations and stuff, and just this is where my anxiety can come up. It can really flare up when it comes to worry about physical body, and that's something that I've got in my training that I've picked up from my first 7 years that I took on, and I recognize that, one of the things I want to also say in this, like, in talking about that, whatever family situation that we've brought up in, that's all with intention, and that's something I would argue that we chose. So as I'm sharing you all this story, kind of breaking down the story and what's been happening, I'm not trying to come from the place of victimhood. That's not the point. That's not how anyone ought to live. That's not being responsible to myself. That's not being my own leader. And no matter what happens in life, and a lot of things can happen, right? But it never changes the fact that there's always a bigger picture. There's always a bigger picture. Now, I think the important thing when it comes to when life be lifing, right? It's the process, which was I was pretty much doing a fair share of that this weekend. That's why I'm at this place now. I remember I had the thought like maybe I should do the episode the next day, but I'm like no. Then I'm like nope. I thought about it again. I'm like I need to give myself time to process this first. So that's why I'm sensing that I think it's the timing is good. To be able to talk about all this, even though it's very fresh to me, fresh at the time of recording this. It's still fresh for me. But like I say, I've had the time to process it, and I think that's the important thing, right? Is just processing through it, being patient, and just being there. And then when the dust has settled, when the storm has passed, then that's the good time to look back and take a step back and tune into the bigger picture of what the hell that was about all about. And you can frame that for your experiences, whatever you're experiencing, and experience what you're doing right now. Just go through it, do your best. But for the love of God, do not analyze, dissect, or try to regroup your situation while you're in the storm, while you're in the shit. Please don't. Please don't. Because that right there is not conducive to anything. There needs to be some time before getting to that point after processing an experience that has happened. And so, as I was working through my own mental stuff there, kind of coping with and just letting that reality sink in, the new reality that, okay, my body's busted up right now and I need to rest. I need to take care of myself. I need to be careful. And, like I said, it was hard. Like I remember telling, I even told my coworker that it's like, yeah, I'm good for the most part, but it's just mentally, it's tough right now, you know. But one thing I do want to say, and I wanted to actually give, I want to shine the light on, after kind of working, processing and carrying on with my life and doing some stuff to get my mind off all of this and just trying to process in the best way that I know how. Something that has helped me a lot is when I go take a shower. There's something about the bathroom that has such significance for me, and at least my guides, they come close to me almost always when I'm using the bathroom. And something that I recently regrouped from that, why that's the case, that why, deepening my understanding of why they do that, because the bathroom represents the symbol. It's a symbolism for my needs as a soul, just as much that are important, just as much as my needs physically, right? Like to use the bathroom to take care of business, to be at number one, number two, or if you just gotta, bleh, or you gotta take care of that as well. But it's like the need that we all have. That's the key to feeling fulfilled. Is making sure that's taken care of, that's honored, it's being met. You know, one of the things that my anxiety I was getting caught up in, like I had noticed that one of my collarbones on the side that I had fell on, there was like one area that felt like it was slightly kind of sticking out a little bit. Not like a bump, but if it looked kind of like the area that's of that collarbone might have like swelled up a little bit. Um, Even though interesting enough, I don't feel any pain, but so it's like so I looked at this part of my body and I'm just wondering like shoot, did I mess up or do something to my collarbone? And here we go, my mind's like racing again, my intellect going out of balance. Oh my god, I'm just worried about this, and just my mind just focusing, hyper focusing on that. And I don't know about you, but when I hyper focus on a physical experience, it's amazing of what I actually start to experience on my physical body. And it makes me wonder like, okay, is what am I experiencing something that I need to be aware of, like could be, a complication, or is it something that I'm actually causing myself? Do you understand what I'm saying? And the difference can be just my mind. The mind body connection is so powerful. I've learned from time and time again just how powerful my mind is on how much I focus on what I focus on, and how much of my time, my energy I focus on it, and what that contributes to what I'm experiencing physically. So I remember, so I bring that up because when I was in the shower, after feeling like I spent so much energy worrying about it, I had this within me to just like to grab my hand, my left hand, and I place it on that area that I was so caught up and worried about. And I remember I felt the need to say an affirmation, and I was really putting some energy into it, mind you, in the shower too. And I'm sure like the ventilation system is set up in such a way that um, that I'm sure that people could could hear me, in the other floors. But I mean, I was a little self conscious, but I wasn't gonna let that get the best of me. So I'm like, okay, I accept my I accept my physical body for where it is right now. I accept myself for where I'm at right now. So I was tuning into the self acceptance chakra. Then that's where the back of our head or the top of our head is. The My understanding of the self acceptance chakra, the inflow. I was just tuning into that chakra and just saying I accept myself. That was my way of trying to say, hey, I accept this new reality that's happening right now. Because remind you, like I said, I was pretty much living in the past. I was just could have, should have, would have, all this and that, and I was not living in the present moment. And so I needed that use that moment for myself to muster up my inner leadership to say, no, enough living in the past. I'm here right now, and I want to be here right now. That was kind of the energy that I was trying to exude when I was saying the affirmation in the shower, and I felt a shift. I felt a shift in that moment where I felt lighter, and it was really noticeable, and I started to feel more at ease with myself, with the new reality, and that was something very powerful for me, and that's why I, I share that I appreciate showering because it's been my source of from being able to shift my energy from having a day, from being on a streak of feeling off and whatnot, or even I had occasions where I'm in the shower. Why it's so important to me is because I felt like I've been the most open to my guides and I've received so much inspiration and a lot of insights from them. I get a lot of communications from them, and sometimes I'm like, man, why you guys pick these times to like, to send me this information because I can't write it all down because I'm obviously taking a shower, right? Like I need to invest in the freaking waterproof pad and pen or something like that so I can record all of this because but that's the reality but that's only because like I feel that way, but the reality is that's one of those moments throughout my day where I'm like the most open, you know. I mean that isn't to say that I'm not on the other point of the time, but those like for sure I have been pretty open when I've been in the shower. So the showering for me is such an important ritual to do because of that. And then after that, after I was able to shift that, I had the opportunity to meet with my mentor, and we regrouped the months. She helps me regroup my entire month, just to keep my perspective on the bigger picture, right? Because there's always a big picture. Trust me, like there's a bigger picture to your life, just as much as there's a bigger picture to the collective, right? There's always a bigger picture, and I was able to share with her about what I was going through, and then she gave her insights. And one of the beautiful things about having a mentor, especially who's intuitive, who does the same practice as me, is that I know that they can help get they can be a clear channel and help get me some good insights because they're not attached or caught to the crap that I am. Ever notice? I don't know if you ever, if you're someone that's been an intuitive, has ever done channeling for people, you ever notice that it's easier to channel for other people and not so much for yourself? Like I've always wondered that, and I remember a retreat that I had went to recently kind of connected the dots for me. When one beautiful soul was sharing, like it's because when it comes to my stuff, I'm attached to it. I'm attached to like my stuff. I'm not attached to anybody else's stuff because I'm not in their shoes. But if I am And like I said, so to put in perspective, if I'm in your shoes with the stuff that you're attached to, whatever's on your mind, assuming that they are right, assuming that something there's something looming in your mind that gets you caught. If I were in your shoes, it would happen to me too. It would happen to me too. So I appreciate her being able to channel and to further reassure me, you know, how this all fits and to give me that bigger picture perspective. Because for me, in my experience, when I've been able to tune in and to realize and understand it all, how it all fits, it's helped me to be able to release the experience, to release it and to feel more at ease. This is why I think it's so essential that to have a practice of regrouping yourself. Even doing a simple practice of regrouping yourself daily, just to check in as for me as an opportunity to check in with myself. Like, how am I doing? How are things going? Like, come on, how's it going, bud? Let's check in. Let's check in. Like, because I know because our guidance is there with us 24/7. They're not going to impose, but they definitely enjoy and are eager to partake in the opportunity when you take time for yourself, because then that helps them move in. That's like, you know, uh, helps them to move in and to share with you when you give that space to yourself. When I give that space to myself, that's when it's like, okay, all right, guidance, I'm ready for you guys. Because they will not impose. They will not. They will not try to take away our troubles, because that's not the entire. That's not the point. That's not what they're there for. But again, the thing to emphasize at this point is to take time for yourself, because that's one of the ways that your spirit guides can help back you more. And on such a topic, that whole when I look back on that experience after regrouping with my mentor and then taking time to process, but actually even in that moment, within moments when I was on the ground in the middle of the street, in the middle of the road, I knew that my spirit guides assisted me. And I want to say this. I want to preface it with, before I get into this part, is that I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I'm holier than thou, or oh my God, divine intervention and somehow type of thing. That when I came to this realization, this that my guides actually did back me. They supported me in that situation, because given how it all played out, how that car hit me, and factoring how the only thing that really sustained any crazy damage was my water bottle, and there's a freaking dent on the side of it, and I have it here in front of me, and I keep it there as a reminder of the support I have. Because it would have played out it would have played out differently. I know it, if they hadn't stepped in. But I believe that when I take the time, when I'm going out on my adventures, I always take the time to send positive energy out in my environment. I cleanse my environment. And in doing so, that, for me, I give my guidance permission to be involved in my life, to assist me. And that's really what I want to actually to share about that. It's like our spirit guides, our guidance works in miraculous ways. And you could say in mysterious ways. Just like there's so much happening here in the material world, but then I know for me, I can forget that there's stuff happening in the spiritual world, like the dynamics of my team working together, or my team talking to, let's say if I was talking to you in person, my team talking to your team, and the communication that can happen on the other side. Like there's interactions between master souls out there in the other worlds that happens. It's not like there's just this echo chamber or cubicle and they're just focused solely on me. Like there's a lot of moving pieces that are happening right now as you're moving through life. This is part of living in two worlds at once, the material and the spiritual world. Just to give you that perspective. So if there's anything to kind of share from all this, getting to the end of this the podcast episode, is that if you find yourself in a pickle or you find yourself in a need of support, consider for a moment that you have spirit guides. And I'm saying this assuming, of course, if this is something new to you or you never much thought about, or you had maybe an idea or perhaps a fantasy about. And if this is you, like I want you to know that they're real. Like they're so freaking real. Like I know there've been other instances in my life that they've helped me out as well too. And honestly, I would even go as far as to say I wouldn't be around sharing this with all of you if I didn't believe it and had these experiences myself. And so if you ever find yourself in the pickle, tune in and think about your own team of spiritual helpers because you have a team as well too, there to back you 100%. And sometimes I even feel like my guides go above and beyond, honestly. And I don't see why not. It can't be the case for you. And so all else to say is like, never be afraid to ask for help. Be sincere in yourself and just be open and say, hey, I could use your guys' help in this situation. Just think, and I think that right there will go a long way, and you're connected to them. If you can just tune in to just feeling their presence, it doesn't take much unless you overthink it, but that's not how you connect. But nevertheless, you still have them. You still have your team there with you. And if you just think about them and just ask for support, if not your guides, maybe just ask God, because I still believe God works in mysterious ways too. I still believe that whatever helps you to feel secure, like I do believe that we can have protection, even when it's at the same time, as I mentioned, our guides, the like I said, the difference, just to give you a perspective here, so that way you're tuning into the right spirits, is that our guides, our master souls, they won't ever infringe on our free will because they respect our free will. They're like, they give us suggestions and advice based on their perspective, but they never demand, they never tell us this, or that. That's not a master soul. A master soul gives without hooks, without expecting anything in return. They give from a place of love, from a place of abundance. And they see you as a powerhouse, capable of being your own leader, leading your own life, doing what you've come to do. And all they're there is just to come support, to back you. And as a matter of fact, when I was thinking about, and I was just kind of in tears, just thanking my guides for supporting me in that instance, in that collision. Because, like I said, I firmly believe they helped me. I believe this with every fiber of my being, that they helped me in that moment. Despite my mistake or what I should have done, despite that, I remember when I was thanking them, I had this inner knowing within myself. And, and this is one of the ways that our guides communicate with us, is through an inner knowing. When I was thinking about just being so thankful to them, like, thank you guys so much, I had thought, the best way I can repay you guys, to express my gratitude, is to simply continue living my life purpose and moving towards my goals and my dreams. And sure enough, that was what they communicated to me. But it came to me in the form of that knowing, like, okay, guidance, the best way I can say thanks is that I need to keep doing more of what I've come to do. I need to take action and prioritize the things that I know I've been putting off in my life. The fear of success, the worries, and all this crap, and to really start moving more towards it. And now we're getting into a part where no matter what life happens, you and I, all of us, have the ability to make an experience build us, to make us a better person than who we were yesterday. A better person than who we were yesterday. But that all comes from a decision. That comes from deciding now. And that's something that I did within myself. And where I'm at now, and, part of my decision is sharing this experience with you, my friends. So wherever you are in your life, I hope this resonates in whatever degree. Whatever you take from this, I can have my peace with it and trust that. And so, and if you find yourself, and I'll say it and I'll share it with you, The best way you can show gratitude with your guides is to keep living your dreams, keep doing what you've come to do, because that's what they're there for. They want to help you accomplish every everything you sought out to accomplish spiritually while on this planet, while in this school. And one of the big things for me that I'm going to move forward with, that I think this experience has helped me with, and actually, um, one of the things I also did before I reveal that, when I was in the shower and I did my affirmation, what I also did too, because I was coming from just feeling grudge and just feeling wronged and being angry at this lady for just doing what she did, for being careless and not seeing me and hitting me. I intentionally tuned into the vibration of gratitude and I directed it towards her. Now, it's one thing to forgive, to try, like, it's one thing in the sense of like how difficult it is to try to forgive someone who's done something terrible to you, right? You may be able to, you may relate with this, or maybe perhaps you'll witness this, yourself. You know how hard it is to forgive someone who did something terrible to you. Like, it's one thing to forgive, but to be on the level to just say, "Oh, thank you." That's like to me a step up. And that's what I did in that moment. I said, you know what? And that was part of what helped me shift my energy in the shower. Also, to give some context to deepen that, is to help me just like to shift from that forgiveness and then to say, okay, thank you so much for the experience. Thank you for what I just experienced, because now I'm using this opportunity, this experience to launch me forward even more, because we owe it to ourselves to live our lives, to pursue what it is that your true heart's desire. We can't afford to do anything less. And when we move into that direction, you start to bring people, situations, and you have to start to bring experiences that really add value to your life, that help you grow and brings about more experiences that you enjoy, memories you build, and things like that. That's why it's important to discern and to set your own trajectory so you experience more, so you can really truly see how your life is there for you when you pursue your direction, when you go where you need to go. Not worried about your family, your friends, loved ones, like or if you have a partner, not worried about that necessarily, but it's like knowing that you have your own direction and it needs to be honored because it is a need. As a soul, you and I have direction, clear direction. And so, going back to the reveal now, the big one of the big picture thing that I'm taking away from of this whole experience is being in the now, being in the now, in the beautiful, eternal now. The only thing that will always be is now. The past nor the future don't exist, nor will they ever exist at any point. All we have is the now. And that's something, and here's the thing too. For me, I'm someone that's very concerned about the future. I worry about the future a lot. But I'm coming to understand that, okay, valid. It's important to have concern about the future. Make no mistake. But when I get to that point of worry is when I need to take a step back for a moment. And remember, all I have is the beautiful now. Or think of it this way. I take into tomorrow what I do right now. You take into tomorrow what you do right now. Then that is to say the power is in your hand. And if anyone ever imposes on you, saying, oh, you're never going to do this or this, anybody trying to impose on your future, just tell them kindly and respectfully, we'll see. We'll see. And that's the most beautiful thing for me, that has helped me feel more secure It's helped me bring my power back to like me wielding my power and not giving it up to someone or something outside of me. Because people can share what they want. People can even share impressions, their own impressions about the future, or whatever. But at the end of the day, the power lies in your hand of what you do in the present moment. So you don't have to worry about the future. Have some concern and set some direction for sure. Let it be positive and constructive and actually something that builds, right? And don't let it be about, oh, this or that, worried about the economy and all this, the politics and all this. Because I could spend all day worrying about all that stuff. And all that do is going to do is just waste my energy, blow my timing. And who is that going to help at the end of the day? That question needs to be asked at some point. I know for me, it's like, who's that going to help? And so the parting question that, that I want to leave with you is to build to go from there, to build from that. Again, no matter what happens in life, and when you go through life and you experience things, and maybe it might be something that really affects you, that shakes you. Speaking to those experiences, one important thing I think remember is just to go through it, work through it. In terms meaning just experience it, just be present, be there. Don't fight it, don't resist. Face the feelings that are coming up. Make space for them. No matter how uncomfortable it will feel, it may feel. No matter whatever the case may be, I think it's just like when it comes to like the processing, don't avoid it. Sit with it. Don't avoid what's going on in your inner world, right? When life happens and stuff happens, don't run away from it. Don't be afraid. Face it. Face yourself. It's okay. You won't die when you face yourself. You're gonna be okay, you know. And so when the stuff, when life happens and you need to process, right? Processing it, working through it, in whatever form that takes. Like I know for me, sometimes what I need to do to process stuff, I need to go for a walk. I need to do some stretching. Or even sometimes, you know what? I need to play some video games. This is my way of processing. And that's okay. Everybody has their way of processing. Whatever works for you, use it. Move into action. Do something as best as you can, as you're able to. And once the dust has settled, once the storm has passed, once the processing has been done, then, and this is something I hope you take with you, no matter where you go in life, no matter where your life takes you, once you get past that point of processing what you experience, particularly the challenges, what are you going to do about it? And it really boils down to that. When it comes to living spiritually, that I see is also being practical. Once I'm in that place, okay, I'm back in motion, I'm back in movement, I'm not stagnant anymore. That's why I say move into action. When you find, like, when you kind of, when you have this experience and it's gotten you shook up a bit, part of processing is moving in action, doing something simple. It could be doing chores or going out to the grocery store or even just going out and maybe talking to a friend, someone you can confide in. Whatever the case may be, there's no right or wrong or one mold that fits everybody. No, everybody's different. You're unique. And you know that better than anybody else. To be into action, be in the flow. And once you're in that place again, once you've restored back to your own self after the experience, and you're taking a moment to look back, to look for the wisdom, not to relive in the past, not to try to stay there, but rather, what am I going to take from that experience? So like I said, for me, with the collision, what I'm taking from that is the power of being in the now, where my power is. I'm taking that from the past into my future, letting the past go and moving forward. And so again, I hope that I kind of paint you a picture of what it's the giving you a sense of what it takes to the sense of self mastery. Again, this is all from my experiences. Take what resonates. If it doesn't resonate, it doesn't resonate. But this is something that's just worked for me. And no matter what happens in life, you know, be careful with the distractions because it's all over on social media, on the news. And really, to understand and know your place in this world, that's why it's good to ask that question: what am I going to do about it? If I can't do anything about it, okay, I need to shift my energy to something that I can do something about. And I know for sure I can do something about how I think and feel. Everything inside my mental state and in my physical body, I can do something about. And then take it a step from there. So again, my friend, no matter what happens in life, no matter where you are, when you're at that place when you've come back home for yourself, and this takes sincerity, patience, understanding, and openness. What are you going to do about it when life shakes you up? But never forget, in all of that, your life is there for you. Just as much as I know my life is there for me, no matter what. You got support 24/7. And that's always available. And I hope you go forth and really make it practical for yourself and be a doer of action. That's a very positive, that's that spirit guide level type shit, level like to be in action, to do something about your current situation. Live your best life. Do something about it. You have that power within yourself. And I'm going to move forward to the best that I can. Onward and onward. So, if you made it this far, I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for your time. I really do. And it's been it's been an interesting journey so far, but I'm glad I had this podcast so that I've been able to share things like this with people, with other people. And if this is something that you think somebody could really use right now, would resonate, please by all means share this episode with your friends and families, anybody this would resonate with. If anybody comes to mind, send it to them. Don't question it. Sometimes people pop into my mind and I know it's like I need to check in with them or send them a message or something. But again, whether you do it or not, I hope you got something out of it. So I'll leave it there. So this has been another episode of Spiritually Engineered. I'm your host, Alvin Cepeda, signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.